What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of For Insight. Hope everybody's doing well out there as we get into another NBA edition. So, just with the NBA season winding down and with just over 10 games left in the regular season and the playoff picture starting to take form and, contenders are starting to be formed and starting to be chosen, I think it's a perfect time to kind of survey the lay of the league, see who are the true contenders, who are the pretenders, and, just take a look at the early playoff picture. So we'll start off in the Western Conference. At the 1 and 2 seeds, you have the Utah Jazz and the Phoenix Suns. While both teams, I feel like, have had respectable seasons, I think both of these teams are pretenders. I think that the Utah Jazz, while a good, deep team who've really been able to excel in this regular season, especially from three-point range, and they have a very good and versatile roster, a lot of ball handlers, and Donovan Mitchell, Mike Conley, Jordan Clarkson coming off the bench, and then you have Bogdanovich and Joe Ingles, two solid scorers. Rudy Gobert, definitely a very balanced team. The thing that I think why I say Utah is a pretender is that I just think that they're lacking the star power, truly, to really get anything done of true value in the playoffs. I mean, I think they'll be a really good team, a really good threat, and a really good challenge for any true contender. But I think that overall, they're not a playoff team; they're a regular season team. And then looking at the, Phoenix Suns, I think the Phoenix Suns have been a good story, and they're a team that is on the come up. They're emerging. But, I think that, and definitely it's respectable what James Jones, the GM, and Monty Williams and his coaching staff have done. The additions of Chris Paul, Jay Crowder, who are really good veteran pieces to sort of mentor, Devin Booker, DeAndre Ayton, Mikal Bridges, Cam Johnson. I think they have a good balance as far as youth and experience on the team. The thing with them, I just think that they're a team that still is needing to take a few more lumps in the league, as far as playoff experience, playoff failures, honestly, especially for a guy like Devin Booker who hasn't been in the league long enough to really understand the true pain of losing in the playoffs. I know Chris Paul definitely has that experience, but, Chris Paul is past his prime. He's 36 years old. He's been a good ear and a good point guard for Devin. And a guy like Jay Crowder is a very interesting piece in terms of he's a guy who has moved around the league a lot because he's too valuable, in my opinion, to be a guy where you can't throw him in a trade. He's a valuable piece, a 3-and-D wing defender who can give you toughness, who can shoot the ball at a good clip, and also provides a good stable presence on anybody's basketball team. He saw what value he brought to Miami and his loss and what that has done to them. But I think that, Jay Crowder is a good player, starting caliber wing defender, but, nobody who's really going to set you over the top. And so I think the thing that Phoenix is missing, just like Utah, is just the star power. They need another star, another piece, really to be considered a true contender out there, especially in the Western Conference where, the competition is much deeper, much steeper, and you need the star power out there. And so then looking at, seed 3 through 6, you have the Los Angeles Clippers, the Denver Nuggets, and the Los Angeles Lakers. The Clippers definitely, since adding point guard Rajon Rondo, the one guy I said that they needed, at the trade deadline, and they finally were able to add him. They got him in a trade for Lou Williams. I think he's really helped that ball club sort of figure roles out, figure spacing out, figure, where they fit on the floor, and they played some good basketball as of recently. I believe they're 9-2 since they added Rondo, and so him, Tyronn Lue, the new coaching staff, understanding the pulse of the roster, understanding what they have and their talent, and just being able to figure things out. They've definitely been able to play some good basketball. Paul George is healthy, but the question with Paul George is, can he take care of business in the playoffs? Because that's been the question the past few years for him, and he's kind of gotten that label of pandemic P, way off P. Hopefully, he's able to prove the doubters wrong, in the playoffs this year and really help the Clippers contend. I do think that they're a contender. I think they're one of the few teams in the West that really can make a noise and be a championship level team. You have a stabilizing and a star who's been there before in Kawhi Leonard. Kawhi Leonard's whole thing is, can you really be a leader when it comes to the playoffs? You were able to be the silent assassin in San Antonio. You were able to be that in Toronto because of the cultures that were present there. But now the Clippers are going to need more from you. Can you deliver? Right? And as far as the Denver Nuggets, have played good basketball ever since, losing the likes of Jamal Murray. I think that his loss is going to end up being too much for them in the end. I mean, that's a lot of scoring. Yes, you have Michael Porter Jr., you have Aaron Gordon, who played well. But I think that when it comes to losing a piece of that value, I think that's really too much to overcome. I mean, they'll be a good team. They'll definitely be a good playoff threat. But I think that in terms of being a true contender, I think the loss of Jamal Murray is going to be too much for the Denver Nuggets. They'll be a good team, though. And they still have a long window in this league, I believe. Then the LA Lakers, Anthony Davis has come back, and they're starting to get guys healthy again. Andre Drummond's gotten over his toe injury. LeBron's looking to be back within the next week or so, is being said. So I think the thing with the Lakers is just, can they get healthy and get enough chemistry, get enough games under their belt in time for the playoffs to start and really be able to hit the ground running. I think them being a fifth seed right now, and even if they were to stay there, I think that doesn't really concern them too much, only from the standpoint that you have a pretty tough matchup in the Nuggets. But even then, I think that honestly plays in their favor, because this isn't the Nuggets team that was as deep as they were at the trade deadline. Now they're missing a key piece. And in the end, I don't think they have anybody who really can hold down LeBron, especially, but let alone if he's healthy, but let alone LeBron and AD and Andre Drummond, especially in that front court. Nikola Jokic struggled last year with Dwight Howard and his physicality. Now you have two guys who you can put a body on, as well as Marc Gasol with the Lakers. So I think they have enough bodies and enough fouls to throw Jokic. And then in terms of, Aaron Gordon has some playoff experience, but really getting to that next tier, that next level, can he do it? So it'll be interesting to see what the Lakers do. I do think the Lakers also, like the Clippers, are another contender in the West. It's just a matter of, can they get healthy and can they hit their stride and peak at the right time? And then just the rest of the playoff outlook, you have the Blazers at the 7th seed, the Grizzlies, the Spurs, and the Warriors, who are looking at that playing scenario. Out of those four teams, I foresee the Blazers and, honestly, I would say the Warriors being the two teams that make it in the 7 and 8 seed. I think while the Grizzlies are the 8 seed currently, and you have John Morant, Jaren Jackson's come back, and they're well coached and have good staff. I think the Warriors, if they can get hot, and if you have Steph playing the way he has been, which he's been phenomenal as of recently, along with him and Draymond, and the team, if they can get motivated and if they can just get some good momentum going, I think they can honestly beat the Grizzlies with their experience that they have. And then honestly, I think the Blazers getting healthy, Melo, CJ, Dame, I think Dame proved that he can get you some games and he can, make it known when he's counting. I know right now he's not playing well, but I think once the playoff, starts to roll around and games start to matter, I think, Dame and CJ for sure will be able to deliver. And they have Norman Powell. I think their team is good. They just need, the injury bug has sort of hurt Portland the past couple of years. So as long as they're able to stay healthy, I think that they will be able to get in the playoff. And then, you look at the Spurs. The Spurs are just another team I think are still trying to rebuild. They're able to hang around, but I don't think they'll really be a team that makes enough noise. They're still trying to rebuild the franchise ever since losing the likes of a Tony Parker, Manu Ginobili, Tim Duncan. They're really trying to reform a new identity, and they're trying to do so with the new young players they have out there. But then, going over to the East, the East, start off with the top three seeds again. You have the Brooklyn Nets, the Philadelphia 76ers, and you have the Milwaukee Bucks. I think first off, the Nets, I think, are the team to beat out in the East right now. With the way they've been playing, I mean, their top three players have not really played a whole lot of basketball together. I think 7 total games as of so. But they still are able to get the job done. They still have a lot of, hungry guys who they've been able to give minutes, and in the end, playoffs is about, star power and matchups. And I think offensively, you have the likes of Kevin Durant, first of all, who can get 30 in his sleep. I mean, hasn't played a whole lot of basketball this year, and he's still, every time he's on the floor, he's giving you an efficient 25 to 30 points, so I think his power, as long as he's able to just get on the court, he's always going to be a threat. Kyrie Irving's been in his bag this year. I think Kyrie Irving, as long as his head is on straight and he's healthy mentally, I think he's going to be able to deliver you some good basketball. And then now you don't have the full burden on James Harden if he can come back. to be the sole star power and be the sole, guy who has a scoring load on him. So maybe he's able to deliver. I know in the playoffs the past couple of years, James has, come up short, but now he's the third option really in terms of a playoff team. And he's now the point guard. He's facilitating to the likes of KD, to the likes of Kyrie, to, Joe Harris, Landry Shamet, and those guys. So I think that, definitely the Nets are a contender out in the East. The thing with them is defense, and then also you have Mike D'Antoni, Steve Nash. Steve Nash being a rookie coach, is that gonna end up playing against them, right? Defensively, they haven't been very good this year. They've been a lower middle to bottom half of the league. So is that going to catch up with them? Generally, teams that aren't good defensively in the playoffs are exposed, and they generally don't win. So it'll be interesting to see. Then you have the Philadelphia 76ers. I think with them, I love what the Sixers have done in terms of just, first off, getting Doc Rivers in there, a veteran coach who can hold Joel Embiid and Ben Simmons accountable. I think that's what they really needed, just that leadership. And then also adding the likes of Danny Green, Seth Curry, Shake Milton's been a good young player to come off the bench for them, and then adding veterans like, George Hill, really being able to space the floor for those guys, ever since JJ Redick and Dario Saric and Ersan Ilyasova, the guys who spaced the floor when Joel and Ben were young. When those guys left, you had a very condensed floor. Now the spacing is back there. Tobias Harris, now being under Doc Rivers again, has been able to find his rare form again, and he's been able to excel and become his old version that was, leading the Clippers back when he was playing under Doc the first time. So, I think the 76ers are a threat. Joel Embiid's looking in shape.
So I think that Joel and, the whole 76ers team, I think they're going to be a threat. They're going to be a formidable foe out in the East. Definitely. I think that they're playoff ready. They have some playoff tested veterans on that team now. I think that there'll be a really good matchup for even the Nets. And then, last contender out of the East would be the Bucks. I think that the Bucks are in a comfortable position right now. I think that Giannis winning 2 MVPs, I think he's wanting to get that taste after, signing a long-term deal of trying to get to that championship and trying to really get that next, jewel in his chest, so to speak. I think that they've had a lot of expectations out there in Milwaukee the past couple of years, and they've come up short. Now they're sort of relishing being the underdog now. And, they've added, veteran pieces like Jrue Holiday. Obviously, the Bogdanovich trade didn't work in their favor, but I think that now they're really starting to try to focus on being a playoff team more so than a regular season team, and they're just comfortably, lurking there in the 3 seed. And so we'll see if Milwaukee can take the next step. Are they a contender? I think yes, more so than no. Do I put my money on Milwaukee making it to the finals? I wouldn't, not yet, because I think they're still growing, and I think that they're at the stage and the point now that they have to prove it more so than you buying into them. And then, just looking at the middle of the East, you have the Knicks at the 4th seed, the Hawks at the 5th seed, and the Celtics at the 6th seed. I think what the Knicks have done, trying to turn that organization around to really build a better culture with Julius Randle, RJ Barrett, Kevin Knox, and those guys out there under the leadership of Tom Thibodeau. I think at least this is a respectable team now. I know they've dwelled at the bottom of the league for some years now. They didn't get the Zion Williamson. They didn't win the Zion Williamson sweepstakes a couple of years ago, but I think now they've gotten some better management underneath their tutelage, and now they're just sort of slowly building a good team through the draft. So I think they'll be a great playoff matchup. If they could play the Nets, I think they'd be a really good matchup for them in the playoffs, and I think that'd be a very interesting sort of New York, Brooklyn sort of atmosphere that I think could really create a good rivalry and a good marketing potential for the league. So I think that'd be great. The Hawks were a team, at the beginning of the year, I thought would have been, a good, solid, young team on the come up, and they really started the season out. They started off okay, and then, they took a major dip. They got rid of Lloyd Pierce, and then under the, coaching and the leadership of Nate McMillan, they've sort of turned things around, and now they're winning some games. They've gotten up to the fifth seed. I think the Hawks are, Trae Young and, just John Collins and that whole team. I think they're a good young team. They're not a good contender, obviously, but I think it'll be good for Trae Young to sort of get his feet wet in the playoffs and for that team to sort of get their first slow lick and getting, a taste of playoff atmosphere, playoff basketball, and just that intensity. The Celtics, I mean, they were a team that I've been out on. I'm still not. I'm still out on them, but they were able to, get some games won in the past couple of weeks. They've slipped again in recent memory, but I think the Celtics just need to invest in some better players. Honestly, I mean, until they do that, I really don't see the Celtics really being a true threat anymore in the East. Just because I think that they've waited too long, and now the window is sort of closed on them, so to speak, with them not really getting anything for Terry Rozier, not getting anything for Kyrie Irving, not getting anything for Gordon Hayward, and letting all those guys walk away for nothing. I mean, you could say that you traded Kemba Walker for Terry Rozier. I mean, I get that, but at the same time, Kemba, in my opinion, has not really panned out good enough, And I mean, that's just what it is. But definitely, I think, the Celtics need to revamp. Otherwise, they're going to end up, risking, wasting Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown's prime, Marcus Smart's prime, and, the league's catching up, and if you don't learn how to adapt and evolve, then you're going to get left behind in this league. And the 7 through 10 spots, you have the Heat, you have the Hornets, you have the Pacers, and you have the Wizards. The Heat are a good team. They've had to deal with some COVID issues this year, but I think, they've set themselves up to at least be a good contender and a thorn in somebody's side in the playoffs. So definitely, I think they'll get in, whether it's the 7th or 8th seed. Out of the last three, with the Hornets, the Pacers, and the Wizards, I would, if I had to say right now, I would say that I would, have more faith in Russell Westbrook, him being a vet, him being a competitor, and Bradley Beal. That backcourt, I think, can get you into the 8th seed at least, in the East, because I don't see the Hornets really doing anything. I mean, they've played okay this year, but they're not a team that I really see being a playoff team, and the Pacers definitely not. I think the Pacers kind of are more so a rebuilding team that happens to just be lingering in the 7 through 10 seed, but I don't see them getting in the playoffs at all. I think they need to really look at trading or building through the draft again. And I think they understand that about themselves. But just just to wrap up everything, I think early playoff predictions and outlook, definitely in the West, I think that the Clippers, the Lakers are your for sure contenders. I think the Nuggets are, second tier contenders. And then, depending on how well and, just the whole vibe and luck, honestly, I think the Jazz and Suns could possibly be there, but I think that your two true contenders in the West are going to be the Lakers and the Clippers. Out in the East, I mean, you have the three-headed monster with the Nets, the Sixers, and the Bucks, and really I would say Nets and Sixers. I think the Bucks are more so towards the lower tier, and then, everybody else is just going to be there for the show, honestly. But outside of, predictions and everything, I think really with this particular NBA season, it's a very interesting discussion going on around the league as far as this whole load management culture and, this whole tendency for teams to rest players, right? A lot of media pundits, a lot of people who talk about basketball professionally have said, this whole load management tendency for teams resting players and, teams, not playing guys is bad for the league and ratings are down, that whole scuttlebutt. And honestly, in my opinion, I think teams are doing what's in the best interest for their rosters, for their players, for their guys, and I think there's nothing wrong with that, honestly. I understand that as fans, first off, fans aren't in the arenas. I mean, they're just not getting back, but for the longest, fans have not been in the arenas this year. And with this condensed 72-game schedule, I think injury is really a factor. Injury and fatigue is really a factor now more than ever this year. And what you don't want is risking your stars, especially if you're a playoff contender. You don't want your stars getting hurt. You don't want your stars risking serious injury, trying to bring them back too early. So I think if you're a team that's in a position to rest your guys some games, by all means, as long as you understand the risk with that, whether that's chemistry, whether that's, holding them out for too long, and then, maybe it messes with the morale, the culture of the team. In the end, you want to make sure that your team is healthy, especially with the day and age in the league that we have now. Everything is geared towards winning a championship, honestly, with fans, with media, with everything. Nobody really cares about the journey. Nobody cares about, you know, a regular season game 62 on a Thursday night. Nobody's going to care about that at the end. Everybody is geared towards who won the championship or bust, as they say. So I honestly don't mind, teams doing what's in the best interest for them and their fan base. If they have the end goal of we're trying to win a championship by any means necessary, then by all means, do what you have to do. It may not be fair. People may not like it, but in the end, your end goal is to try to win, and you're doing whatever it takes to do so. So that's just that. But definitely, I think it's been a good season. The COVID bug, and just isolation, the mental challenge has definitely been a thing in the league this year. But they've been able to get through it pretty smoothly. Obviously, injuries have played a factor for every team this year, but that's just part of the league. The NFL had to deal with it. It's just it's part of the journey, but it makes it that much sweeter for whoever wins it at the end this year. So it's going to be interesting to see how the playoff matchups unfold and how the playoffs sort of finish out for sure. But that'll wrap up this episode for this week. Once again, my name is Mike Obi. You can catch this episode on YouTube, Anchor, Spotify, all platforms streaming podcasts. Much love.